Hey guys, welcome back. My name is René and you are watching German Motors and Engineering. Today we have a Hellcat here, but not a normal Hellcat. It's a Hellcat with one of the biggest engines that we've built. It's a 7-liter displacement stroker engine, and we did install another setup for the supercharger so that we are running the maximum boost that we can squeeze out of that specific engine setup. What we've experienced on the dyno is that we are running out of fuel. Here in the upper section we are programming with HP tuners. You can see that I'm at full throttle. The yellow line is my accelerator pedal. The green line is the throttle opening, so you can see that it's at maximum value, it's maximum wide open. And the red line is the RPM. We are in a fixed gear, so the RPM is raising, and here at the top end we are at nearly 6,000 or at more than 6,000 RPM. And what is scaring us is the opening time of the injectors. That's the little yellow line here. And I don't want to explain you everything on that screen right now. We can do that at a later point of time. The injector opening time is already 20 milliseconds. And what means 20 milliseconds? This engine is an auto engine, and the principle that this is working is that you have 4 strokes. You are sucking in the air, you have the combustion stroke, and then the stroke when it burns the fuel, and then you are pushing everything out. So we have 2 crank rotations where we can inject all the fuel that we need for that one stroke when it's working. So 1 minute has 60 seconds, and 6,000 RPM means we have 6,000 rotations per minute. And when you divide 60 seconds by 6,000 rotations, you will see that you have 0.01 seconds, means 10 milliseconds per rotation. And because we have 2 rotations time to inject our fuel, we have 20 milliseconds time at 6,000 RPM to inject all the fuel that we need. And we are already over 6,000 RPM, and 6.3, what is the RPM number right here, is not the final RPM number that we would like to go, but we did stop there because already there we see the injectors being fully open. And fully open injectors mean whether you have 2 small injectors or you don't have enough fuel volume. And this is the problem right here. Those injectors, they are 1050 cc injectors. They inject more than 8 liter fuel per minute when they are fully open at their normal pressure. But the pressure is the problem because our fuel pump assembly from that car does not deliver the right amount of fuel volume and pressure to feed those injectors in a sufficient way. And therefore they are opening more and more and more because the car has a closed loop control all the time. It's not going into open loop, it's going, it stays into closed loop. They have 4 very good O2 sensors. They are wideband, all these 4, and therefore the car can stay into closed loop. And our fuel trims are running away, and this is because our fuel flow breaks together. And we did already remove the original fuel pump assembly from that car. It's very easy. You can see in the back of the car under the rear seats there is a nice opening where you can access your fuel pump assembly very easy. We have Grand Cherokees where you have to remove the whole exhaust system, the drive shaft and everything to access your fuel tank, but here you just remove your rear seats and there you are. This is the original fuel pump assembly, which has the sensor here for your fuel level. And what is very interesting is this little thing. Most of you will say, yeah, it's just a plastic part, but it's not. this little plastic part is the reason why your car has fuel all the time. Imagine you are running on an empty fuel tank, so the fuel level here is the bottom of your fuel tank, and you have only 1-2 fingers fuel left in here. When you are braking or you are accelerating or driving corners, all this fuel goes wherever it wants inside the tank. But this plastic part is every time filled with fuel, and the fuel is squeezing out here because it's every time at the top level filled, because your stock fuel pump brings the fuel in not only to the engine, it's also injecting a very sharp, thin fuel into that hole here, and after that hole comes a little U-shaped line, and this U-shaped line brings the fuel back into that tank, and here is a gap, and in that gap it takes even more fuel out of the fuel tank and injects it into that plastic pot. And by doing like that, that plastic pot stays fully filled even under full throttle, and the fuel comes out here, and until you did consume the last liter of your fuel tank, this one is every time filled. And the biggest mistake that you can do is install a fuel pump assembly which provides you the right amount of fuel, of course, but has no swill pot. Without such a swill pot, you have the risk that when you are braking, accelerating or driving corners at an empty fuel tank, that you are sucking air instead of fuel, and this air goes into in the direction to the engine. And when your injectors are opening, they don't know what they inject, and when they don't inject fuel but they inject air, then your engine starts to knock. It starts to burn to lean, and then you're melting your pistons away faster than you can take your foot off the accelerator pedal. So therefore we found that fuel pump assembly which has the same little line which is injecting this little sharp fuel into that hole, so that even more fuel is being taken off the fuel tank and fills that swill pot completely all the time. So it's a direct install. You just have to cut away some little plastic parts, and then it fits into here very good. Those little aluminum noses snap in to these original points. You can mount the fuel level sensor on the side of that part and do a direct install into your fuel tank. So we will do we will do it right now. Should only consume a few minutes, and then we will go out with that car and do another data log again and see what the result will be to our injector opening time. So guys, the new fuel pump is installed and the car is running pretty good. And now we will take it to the Autobahn and go full throttle. And hopefully, under full throttle, we will see that the injector opening times and the fuel pressure stays at the values that we are expecting. So we don't want to see the fuel pressure to drop, and we don't want to see the injector opening times to go up too much. When we have enough fuel pressure, then the injectors don't need to open so long to get the required amount of fuel together. So let's go full throttle and then see when we are back in the workshop what our data log says. The The acceleration on the old one felt really good, and when something feels good, then normally the data shows the same. Here I'm accelerating, so we are at maximum throttle and maximum accelerator pedal. We have maximum RPM. This is the shift point in that gear, and what we can see is that our fuel pressure stays the same. So it's not breaking together. We have 5.5 bar of fuel pressure, and it stays at that level without moving. And because we have such a nice stable fuel pressure even under high fuel flow, our injector milliseconds are not too high. We have 11 milliseconds injector opening time, which is very, very moderate. And we have a nice spray pattern because we have high pressure and relatively moderate opening times. So we have a very, very nice injector spray. And now our engine is running fine. And what do we learn from that lesson? If you want to have more power, you are increasing the boost, you have more air, and for more air you need more fuel. So you need bigger injectors. And until a certain point, that is going okay. At the Hellcat it is around 800 horsepower where you have the break point that you need bigger injectors, although bigger injectors is also a good idea for 800 horsepower power level. I'm talking about engine horsepower, not about rear wheel horsepower. And up to 900 something horsepower you can you are fine with bigger injectors, but from that power level upwards you will need bigger fuel pumps. With bigger fuel pumps you have more fuel flow and a constant high fuel pressure, so that your injectors don't need to open too long. And please be sure that for high power levels and build up engines, a loss of fuel can be the end of your engine. When you are burning too lean, then you are burning too hot, and those aluminum pistons, they are melting. And this happens when you don't have enough fuel. So don't let it happen like this. Upgrade your fuel system before you go wide open throttle with a lot of boost, and hope that helps. If you have any questions, then call us, visit us, leave some comments, hit the like button. Hope you liked that video. See you next time.